Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Beavercreek City Council meeting. And before we get started tonight, we have a couple special things we want to do. And we're going to start off with a proclamation for Girl Scout Week. So if I can ask the Girl Scout troop that is here tonight to come up and join us, I have a proclamation that I'd like to read. So just come right up in here. You can stand in front of me. You can, wherever the camera will get you. That's where we want you. If you can hide me, that's okay too. All right. If I get stuck, you're going to tell me which word I'm missing, right? All right, ladies. By the way, International Women's Day was yesterday, right? All right. You guys, girls ought to be very proud. All right, here we go. Whereas, throughout its long and distinguished history, Girl Scouts, the premier organization for and leading authority on girls, builds girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. And whereas, in partnership with nearly 14,000 adult volunteers, Girl Scouts of Western Ohio yearly serves 50,000 girl members in 32 counties throughout western Ohio and southeastern Indiana. And whereas, through the Girl Scout leadership experience, girls develop the skills and lessons that will serve them a lifetime so that they may contribute to their communities. And whereas, over 50 million women have enjoyed the benefits of the Girl Scout leadership experience as an American tradition for 104 years. Now, therefore, I, Bob Stone, Mayor of the City of Beavercreek, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim March 8th through 14th, 2020, as Girl Scout Week in the City of Beavercreek. And we applaud the commitment Girl Scouting has made to support the leadership development of our community. So, girls, I'd like to present this to you all. And would you like to hold it? All right. I think there's a picture or two somebody's going to want out there. Would you like to say something? All right. Would you like to speak,
Sure,
please?
yes. Girls, thank you so much for coming. This is one of our favorite weeks of the year to welcome you here and have you come to our meetings. I know that the past few years, Mayor Stone's done it as well. We've had the opportunity to go to the Gold Awards and meet some of the girls who are getting their Gold Award status and learning more about the project. So Girl Scouts do amazing things in our communities. They don't just bring us wonderful, delicious cookies a couple times a year, which I know we all look forward to that too. But they do so many wonderful things in the community. So girls, we're so happy to have you here, and we look forward to having you part of the community and all of the wonderful contributions we know that you'll make for us.
Stay here. Stay here. Can I let them introduce themselves first? All right.
Is that all right? So, yes, thank you, City Council and Mr. Mayor, for letting us come here. I'm Susan Grinkmeyer. I am a service unit manager for Girl Scouts in Beavercreek, and this is Girl Scout Troop Cadet Troop 35377. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
I'm Alina Truman.
Addison Euler.
Allison Butcher.
Madison Loney.
Did you all go to the school? Oh, different schools? What schools do you go to?
Spinning Hills.
Coy.
Coy. Coy.
All right. I do want to say to the City Council and to everybody else that Beavercreek is a very wonderful place to be a Girl Scout. And I can say that with confidence as part of an active duty military family. I've done Girl Scouting in lots of places. And certainly this has been an extremely good experience to do Girl Scouting here. We have a wonderful working relationship, not only with the city government, but with local schools and local businesses and local churches that all give us the support that we need so the girls can go about their business of Girl Scouting, setting goals, achieving those goals, working on projects, earning badges, all the things that Girl Scouts do. Girl Scout Week starts with yesterday, Sunday, and includes March 12th, which is the Girl Scout birthday. 108 years ago, Girl Scouts started with one person's idea that there should be an organization to build girls of courage, confidence, and character that make the world a better place. And I think it's working. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And ladies, thank you for being here tonight. All right?
We have gifts for people.
Uh-oh, gifts.
So, ladies, if you could make sure that everybody up here gets and Mr. McHugh wants to eat.
Better get in there. You're gonna raffle them off. I could.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I like the peanut butter ones too, but you're probably out of those. So if you are, just whatever. There you go. Thank you. Those are good too. Thank you. That's up to you. I won't take yours. Get one. Both peanut butter. Oh, one has chocolate. I want the chocolate. You want the combination. Yeah. Horse trade.
Now, we best not forget the mayor's seat over here. It doesn't matter, I'm just kidding.
Let's go and get one down there.
Wow. Well, thank you very, very much.
Now those are good with coffee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, ladies. Also, make sure you notice I'm wearing a pin, my Girl Scout pin tonight. We have one other presentation tonight. Councilwoman Garcia and I went to the first Lego League competition here a couple of weeks ago. It's the middle school group that they build robots, they program them, and they also do projects. And one of the teams that we talked to, had the honor of talking to there, was very impressed with. We found out afterward they ended up winning that competition, and they're going to be moving on to the international competition in Detroit. I think it's the end of this month. So I'd like to have the Waves come up here, along with Dan Andrews from the Wright-Patterson Education Outreach Office, and Jen, I hope I can do this, Catalesso. They have it under control. Okay, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and they've got a presentation. There'll also be a video, but they'll tell you about their projects and things like that. Who wants to start?
I'm Katie.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Amelia.
I'm Avery.
And we're the Waves.
So before we get more into us specifically, we're going to tell you a little bit about what FIRST is. FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology, with the goal of spreading STEM throughout the world. It does this in 4 different ways. Through Junior First Lego League, which is for elementary school, First Lego League, which is what we do for middle school, First Tech Challenge for middle school and high school, and First Robotics Competition for high schoolers.
Thank you. My name is Dan Andrews. I'm the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base K-12 STEM lead. And First Lego League is one of 17 programs in our office that we support. We are the affiliate partner for the state of Ohio, and we support over 500 teams, over 35 tournaments, and we host the state championship at the Nutter Center that these ladies competed and won. So we're very proud of them. They'll be competing in April against some really tough competition, and we really wish them the luck, and we're glad you guys were able to invite us up. And I'm going to pass this on to you.
We are a First Lego League team, and there are the 3 parts of the competition is robot, project, and core values. For core values, there are a group of words that we try to use in our team meetings. It's innovation, impact, inclusion, discovery, fun, and teamwork. We use teamwork to include everybody and work together as a team to decide what we're going to do, and innovation to come up with new and fun ideas to do things.
So every year there's a different project. This year for City Shaper, we were told to find a problem in our local community, and we we found that libraries weren't getting visited by teens. We want to show you a tiny bit of our presentation to explain it.
Hello, we're reporters Paige Turner and Rita Locke coming to you live from WFLL Studios in Dayton, Ohio with a city shaper crisis.
According to the American Library Association, teens in library programs scored 22% higher on standardized English test. Yet, library usage is dropping. According to the University of Toronto, library usage dropped 50% between 2000 and 2014. We wanted to take a deeper look at this alarming trend in a specific public place, the Yellow Springs Public Library. We have Ms. Nassim here from the Yellow Springs Library. Ms. Nassim, how many teens do you see?
I'm a teen librarian, and I see kids and adults, but I see very few teens. In spite of all the things I've tried to attract them with, the number of teens that are coming to the library is still low. This is a real problem.
We wanted to get to the heart of the issue, accessibility. Why or why isn't the library accessible to teens? We had an exclusive interview with civil engineer Paul Cottalesso, and he described the 4 aspects of accessibility as physical, such as if you're in a wheelchair and there is no ramp. Location, like if it's a 3-hour drive. Resources, such as books, movies, and magazines. Then finally, rules, like you have to be quiet. All of these could affect why no teens go to a library. Now, let's go live to Yellow Springs, where Rita Lott is interviewing a teen.
What do you think of the Yellow Springs Library? Do you like it?
Nah, the teen section is a books, tables, and 4 chairs. The 2 open sides are pretty much how we get to the adult fiction section, and people walking by are distracting. Plus, there are a ton of rules. No food, no talking. We can't even whisper to our friends without being shhed. Personally, I don't think the Yellow Springs Library is accessible to me or my friends.
Thank you for this insight on accessibility of the library to teens. Now we turn it over to Team FLL Team Waves to investigate and solve.
We thought teens might not go to the library because there are rules and limited things to do. We wondered what other teens thought, so we developed a survey. We asked teens what would make them want to go to the library more often. We got 52 respondents. All respondents identified movies, snacks, video games, and makerspace as reasons to go to the library.
Next, we took a tour de libraries. We visited the Xenia, Fairborn, Beavercreek, and University of Dayton libraries. At the Xenia Library, there was a makerspace with 3D printers and other technology. At Beavercreek, there were study rooms with glass wall attenuation for sound attenuation. Fairborn had a larger teen section, and the University of Dayton Library had multiple floors with different voice levels on each floor, vending machines on some floors, and a collaboration space.
Next, we visited Woolpert, an engineering firm. We spoke with Miss Rebecca, a project manager, Miss Nadia, an environmental engineer, and Mr. Tony, an architect. They taught us how to efficiently use design in space. Next.
For our solution, we decided to take the 4 most popular activities on our survey and integrate them into the library.
Next, we would add a 444 square foot area in the back of the library for teen activities.
For one of those activities, we'd purchase video game consoles, like a PlayStation or Xbox, and put them in the back. It would cost approximately $2,500.
We would put a glass wall in front of an alcove to put stuff for a makerspace.
In the teens section, we would add a small vending machine for snacks.
All right, so now we're going to have Amelia tell us a little more about the robot.
For the robot, we have a brick that has several buttons and can be programmable. We would take Legos and build off of that to build something like this robot. It has motors and sensors to get around a 4 foot by 8 foot mat. This mat contains different missions that you have to use the robot to lift up, down, and side to side.
Video. So this is one of the games that we played. So that's the start. We're pushing out blocks to score points, and the team with the most points wins. But so next we're changing out our attachments, and we're running our second mission. So here we actually, it's my fault, I messed up and pressed the wrong button. So we had to reset, but it all worked out in the end. But so there's a traffic jam that is lifting now, and all the missions are themed with the City Shaper theme. So now we're releasing the swing at the park. And the next mission we're doing is the construction. We're pushing the tower up. So steel construction is what it's called. So we're changing our attachment again to run out for a different mission to get us more points. It's another change of attachments. This is for our last mission, where if you'll notice in the middle of the table, there's a big white, it's called the bridge, and basically it's a bridge, and you have to try to get on it to it, and there's two flags. If you raise both of the flags, then you get a lot of points. So what we didn't notice is there's another robot on the other side coming up the bridge, and we actually went under the other robot. It went on top of us. It was... So yeah.
All right.
And then if you're interested in learning more about FIRST, we're doing a program at the Yellow Springs Library on, I believe, June 11th. No, February 11th from 4 to 5 p.m. at the Yellow Springs Library.
February?
It's June? Oh, it's June. It's June. Yeah, February was, okay, yeah. June.
All right.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys coming in here. Now you see why we were so impressed with these young ladies when we saw them at the activity, and we wish them a lot of luck when they go to Detroit, and bring something back here to Beavercreek, maybe a big trophy or something, okay? Thanks again, guys.
I'm sorry I missed this last one, but I've been to several, and it is very impressive to watch these youngsters get out there and show their abilities, and it's really fantastic. All right. I would like to ask Councilmember Curran to lead us, or to ask somebody to help us lead in the pledge, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask the Girl
pardon?
Scouts and
Oh.
Boy Scout
We'll do it
to
after.
come forward and lead us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask people to, just for a moment of silence, to remember the travesty in Nashville and the challenges that that community is going through. Thank you.
And we'll back up a hair. We'll call this meeting, the official part of the meeting, to order, and we'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Bales?
Here.
Councilmember Curran?
Here.
Councilmember Garcia? Here. Councilmember Rushing?
Here.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Here.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Here.
Mayor Stone.
Here. All right, you have an agenda before you. Are there any changes?
Seeing none, I move for approval of the agenda as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. We have 3 sets of minutes before us this evening. We'll start with February 10th, 2020 regular session. Any comments on the minutes?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the February 10th minutes as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
And I'll
Motion-
abstain.
Thank you. Next is February 18, 2020 work session.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. And lastly, February 24th, 2020, the regular scheduled meeting. Any comment?
Move to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for February 24th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Aye. Thank you. All right, pre-scheduled speakers. Our first speaker is Mr. Randy Burkett on the U.S. Census.
Sorry, I don't have any cookies or Legos.
You can
I'll do
leave
my
then.
best with the census here. I just wanted to talk a few minutes just about the 2020 census, and just mostly to remind everybody that April 1st of this year is actually U.S. Census Day. The census is something the federal government's been doing every year, every 10 years since 1790, so we're at 230 years of history here. It's one of the few things in the actual U.S. Constitution that the federal government's required to do. The questions have changed over the years, over the centuries, but this year, I mean, they're still asking the same basic demographic facts and questions. I'll get into that here in a few minutes. But just want to remind everybody that the data that is provided is confidential. It's protected by law. Early on, a couple years ago, they asked the city to review their list of addresses, and they gave me a database and made me swear that I won't share it. And after I got done and reviewed it and updated it, I had to destroy the data. So they're really protective of the data, and all the U.S. Census personnel has to take the same oath of secrecy. So why is the census important? Well, first of all, there's $675 billion worth of federal grants that are allocated every year, and those allocation numbers are based on U.S. Census. So the percent of the population that Ohio has per se, we get a percentage of that 675 billion. The largest grants that are out there that are based on the census, like Medicare, Medicaid, federal student loan dollars, and supplementary nutrition programs. But those are all based on U.S. Census numbers, so it's important to get the most accurate count. Second is U.S. congressional apportionment. There's 435 members of Congress, or in the U.S. House, and Ohio's number is based on the percentage of the population. In 2010, we actually lost a seat. Ohio did, and they're anticipating for this census 2020 that we'll lose another seat. And that's not because our population is shrinking, it's just other regions of the country, the population is growing faster. But still, it's important that we get the most accurate count possible so that one would be the only seat we lose and not any additional seats. And thirdly, it's a great research tool. We down in the planning department, as well as in the finance department throughout the city and state, use the numbers that are provided by the census, the population, the housing, to provide studies for city council and the public, as well as, it's a good tool on where even within the city, because it's broken down by census tract, census block, where the city's growing the fastest, what portion of the city. So what to expect? Actually, the Dayton Daily News put an article on their website today, so they kind of scooped me on this. But You should expect the question mailers within the next couple days, between March 12th and March 20th in the mail. There's 9 questions on it per person. I have the sample questions here if anybody is interested in those, but they'll just be asking basic information like the number of people that live in the household, the age, whether it's a renter or owner-occupied house. And then within that mailer, they're going to give 3 ways to respond. You can either respond online, through the mail, or on the phone. And I know that their preferred method is online, so that the data is already compiled. It's just one big database. For our purposes, a few particular special circumstances. One is they had stated that anybody who's displaced by a natural disaster, so if there's still victims that haven't made it back to their home yet from the tornado from last May, you're supposed to still count where your usual residence is, where you intend to return. So if you do have intention of returning back to where you lived, if it was destroyed by the tornado, that's where you're supposed to count as your address. In terms of military personnel, if you're on base in the barracks, and there's a group quarters answer to that, but if you're living on base in regular housing or off base, then you count to where you're at most of the time. So if on April 1st. So if you move here April 2nd, you would count where you moved from. But if you're here on if you were March 30th, you would count where you're from. But once you're at April 1st, if you intend on staying here, that's where you count. And in terms of college students, it's where you live most of the time. So if you're living with your parents here, in this area, and you go to Wright State, then you would count this area. But if you are at Wright State 9 months out of the year, but your parents are in another area, you would still count Wright State as where you're at. So it's where you are a majority of the time. So we just wanted to remind, I'm part of the Greene County Complete Count Committee, and just want to remind everybody that the census is coming. It's once every 10 years, and it's secure, and every number counts. They did a study, and they found that for every person who's not counted, it costs the state of Ohio between $1,200 and $1,800 a year in federal grant opportunities. So $12,000 to $18,000 over the course of the 10-year census. But here to answer any questions anybody has, or I've got information if anybody wants a copy of those sample questions. But thank you.
Well, it's certainly an important endeavor for us to follow through on, and you've been doing a good job keeping tabs of that. And the Neighbors magazine that comes out in April will have an article on that as well. But we just got to encourage everybody.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Randy. Next pre-scheduled speaker is Mr. Bill Casera on alternate revenue income tax.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Okay. So at the last meeting, you heard a presentation by the Beavercreek Fair Funding Committee, and for the past several years there, it's actually been 18 months, I was corrected on that, the group has been meeting to discuss alternative revenue sources for the city. The group had a lot of variables out there. They narrowed down their proposals and finalized what they believe is their solution and presented it to City Council at the last meeting. The foundation of their solution really was the proposal of an earnings tax for every person residing or earning and receiving income within the city limits. Their proposal included a tax rate of 1%, and wanted to ensure that the 100% credit for residents paying earned income to other municipalities was in place, and that their solution also provided the exclusion of certain taxes and earnings, including retirement income, Social Security, pensions, annuities, active military duty pay, and other tax-exempt income. The proposal also included an immediate rollback of the 3.4 mil levy that expires in 2021, assuming that this would be in place in January of 2022. And so therefore, they could immediately reduce the property taxes as part of this program. So again, the goal of the group was to distribute the funding of city services and infrastructure improvements between residents and non-residents. That's the underlying theme here of diversifying the tax base and getting folks to pay for both the services they use and the infrastructure they use. And again, to get us away from being property tax dependent and to split that between earned income tax and property taxes, which basically is what everybody in Ohio has. And also provide the residents of some tax relief now and in the future of property taxes. Again, a major goal of theirs, and again, generate revenue to maintain and expand our municipal services, and also address the backlog of infrastructure and capital improvements and maintenance projects that have been postponed because of the way our current tax structure is. So under the property tax structure, again, it's hard to get to some of those backlogged projects. I threw this in here because this was basically the city's long-term financial strategy. We've discussed this probably 3 or 4 times for some of the council members. Again, we're trying to stabilize our revenue base first with property tax initiatives. We've done that successfully over the past 3 or 4 levy cycles and making those property taxes continuous. To diversify our revenue sources, just like their goal, and again, to determine some sort of long-term plan to address the current operations and capital infrastructure needs that we have on the books. Again, just a quick review. This was the time frame that we were looking at, the timeline. You can see that after we had passed the last 2 renewals for the street capital improvement program, the 2 mil and the 0.9 with a additional 0.3 park millage. We had what we thought was a open time frame and open opportunity to come up with alternative revenue sources. And again, then with looming in the future, the 3.4 mil street operations renewal levy that would is out there that we could address that before that took place or after that took place. But that was kind of our strategy, was to look at those open time frames to determine when would be an opportune time to bring forward an alternative revenue solution. Again, our solution centered around doing an income tax. Even before the group came forward, we were looking at this, and then you do the alternative tax with the income tax, or you continue the levy cycle that we have already on the books. And as you can see, we have the 3.4 mil in 2021. We also have some new levies that would be coming forward to, again, assist with operations to keep up with the current service standards and to develop a infrastructure program to address some of the backlog. But again, the levy options, the property tax options, you can see, even though we've projected fairly minor increases, that cycle may continue every 3 or 5 years. So again, that's the property tax cycle that we were on, and again, that we're trying to resolve. So the question came up was, is the Beavercreek Fair Funding Committee in line and with the city goals and objectives? And as you can see that we've met with them several times and gone over their proposals, and we've looked at it, and we do feel that the objectives of the BFFC are in line with our long-term financial strategies, and again, that fit into our timeline. We also feel that the assumptions that they made during their presentation and their solutions were a fair representation of the resources that could be generated, and in particular the savings that would be generated through elimination of the property taxes when they expire, and the future ones that you just saw on the past slide that will be coming down the road eventually. So again, the goals and the strategy of all these, and again, when they merge all together, they're fairly close. Again, the key here is to reduce the city's property tax dependence as a revenue source, and again, this could be accomplished by having the earnings tax on the November ballot, and with a January 1st, 2022 implementation date, the 3.4 mil street levy would expire in 2021, so that goes in line with the process of replacing one tax source with another. Again, the other key to this is reducing the future property tax initiatives. You saw from the list that there's 4 or 5 other property tax initiatives that will have to come forward if the alternative income tax doesn't come forward. And again, we're trying to eliminate that property tax and that hamster wheel that we've been on with property taxes to eliminate our dependence on property taxes and come up with an alternative source. And then again, this would provide us with the initiative to address the backlog of the postponed capital infrastructure needs that we've obviously postponed because of our current property tax structure. And then relieve the burden of the residents paying 100% of the city operations and capital. And the key here is requiring the non-residents to pay their fair share of the services and infrastructure costs that they benefit from. And again, we've kind of always had a estimate out there that 75% of the workforce in Beavercreek are non-residents. So again, diverting some of the responsibility of that revenue generation to the non-residents, which again, rightly use our services and our infrastructure. So again, the key here would be that we would implement an alternative revenue source, the income tax, and we would, first thing out of the bat, we would exempt retirement income. That's allowable in the ORC, and we think that that will assist current and future operations. Again, maintaining the 100% credit for the residents working in other taxing districts. So again, there will be no additional tax burden on those residents that are currently working elsewhere. Reduce the inequity of the residents subsidizing the surrounding tax authorities who receive our income that's generated within the city. Again, it's another big one out there that the other municipalities around us where our residents are working are benefited from us not having an income tax, and we are basically handing money over to them. They're enjoying, the improvements of their services and infrastructure, but those folks that are coming into the city are not helping to pay for ours. So it eliminates that inequity and then provides for an immediate, as we talked about, a immediate tax reduction for the residents and businesses for the implementation of the tax by having the property tax expire in 2021. So just, that was a lot of words, but to give you the visual, right now our current property tax method, residents pay 100% of the revenue generated in the city. When we go to the proposed method of using a earnings tax and the 1% that was indicated before, the non-residents would be paying 60%. 40%, again, that's based on the dollar amounts that they would generate, not really the 75% we talked about before, but we've conservatively estimated what that revenue would generate. And then the key there is that after you combine those two methods, then the property tax now come rolling off the total tax bill for the city. Residents and non-residents would be split between 66% residents and 33% non-residents. So again, that includes the 3.4 mil street levy rolling off. So again, changing the general philosophy of how we get that revenue generated by the folks that are working and living here, and how that allocates it out to the groups involved in paying that income tax. So that being said, if, and again, we just want to go on the record and say that both the objectives of the BFFC and the city, as you just saw, are in line. We believe that's a good alternative proposal. We also believe that it fits within that time frame that we had for our strategic plan. And if that was the desire of council, here's a proposed timeline of getting that up and running to get it on the November ballot language to adopt the ordinance and again placing it on the ballot for November for the election of November, but implementation still proposed in January of 2022.
Okay, well,
And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
all right, well, thank you. I only have one, Mr. Sarah, and that is that we had the presentation from the committee at our last meeting, and it sounds like that you're on the same page with the committee?
Yes, we believe that, their strategy and their solution to our alternative revenue is a good one, and it fits within our financial strategy as a city.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I would just like to thank you for the information you put together and to just remind citizens that this is can be nuanced at times. I'm by no means a tax lawyer, so sometimes this is complicated for us as well as we discuss it. So when you do have questions, please reach out to City Hall and talk to us and ask the questions so that you can get the correct information as we're trying to put it out to everybody. I think it's important that going forward we have a good understanding of what this really means, how this really affects our residents, how it affects our city. So if you do have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about this so that we can all kind of be on the same page and understand what's going on moving forward. So thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you. Anyone? Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is ordinance, resolutions, and PUDs. First is ordinance 20-05.
This is a first reading of an ordinance to declare certain city-owned property interests as surplus and to approve the conveyance of a water main easement on city-owned property generally known as Overlook Reserve on the south side of Park Overlook Drive.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. As a part of the approval for the Homestead America project along the south side of Park Overlook Drive, which is located approximately on this parcel here, Greene County Sanitary Engineering is requiring a water main connection between the dead-end water main at the end of Spicer Drive and the existing 12-inch water main along Park Overlook Drive. This connection will help to eliminate a dead-end water main. It'll also generally enhance the public water system in this area, and for that reason, I'm recommending City Council approve the ordinance to allow the city manager to convey the easement to Greene County Sanitary Engineering. I should mention too, the easement itself was selected to minimize disruption to the Park Overlook Reserve and is located at the very southern edge of the reserve, is about 250 feet in length and about 20 feet wide. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you. Anyone have any?
Jeff, have you spoken to the residents that back up to the easement?
I have not.
Okay.
Is this what they talk about, creating a loop?
It is, absolutely. It'll improve the flow of the water in the public water system in this area.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. I was just going to say I'm a big fan of looping water mains. It makes a lot of sense for quality and fire protection and everything else.
But I'd certainly be happy to reach out to the resident that lives right in that area.
I think it would be
Let them know what's
important
happening, right,
because
sure.
there's more than likely going to be some trees disturbed behind their property to
Absolutely.
make clearance for that.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 20-05, moving it to the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is resolution 20-07.
This is a resolution to authorize the Beavercreek Police Department to accept the Ohio Law Enforcement Body Armor Program grant.
Hello, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The State of Ohio Attorney General's Office grant is to provide 75% reimbursement of the total cost of the city's purchase of 60 ballistic plates and 30 vest carriers. Total cost of the vest carriers and ballistic plates is $19,984.40. The grant will reimburse $14,988.30, with the city match requirement being $4,996.10. The vest purchase with this, the funding from this program will allow the police department to equip one vest in each marked and unmarked vehicle in the police fleet. This will allow officers to be able to wear these advanced body armor plates over their soft body armor to provide enhanced protection during an active shooter or other critical incident. Staff recommends council adopt a resolution allowing the police department to accept the State of Ohio Attorney General grant opportunity. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chief. And I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but it sounds like a very good program. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Please.
Oh, I've seen none. I was just going to approve it because this is
Okay.
fantastic. There's really not much else, I don't think, but I would move to approve Resolution 20-07.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 20-07. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is ordinance 20-06.
This is a single reading of an ordinance to approve supplemental appropriations and certify additional revenue and authorize interfund transfers for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020, and to amend ordinance 19-30.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm presenting for your consideration supplemental appropriations and certification of additional revenue that affect 4 different funds. So the first one is the police levy fund regarding the grant that the chief just explained to you regarding the grant for the ballistic plates and vest carriers. So the total cost of the equipment is $19,984, and the grant will pay for 75% of that. Therefore, the city needs to appropriate the entire cost of purchasing the equipment and then certify the grant revenue of $14,998, and then the 25% city match for the difference will come from the fund balance within the police levy fund. Secondly, the city received its first reimbursement for debris removal from FEMA and the Ohio EMA totaling over $818,000. This represents 75 reimbursement from FEMA and additional 12.5% reimbursement from the state. So this is the first installment of the approximate $3 million the city has expended relating to the May 27th tornado event. As required by the Auditor of State, a FEMA fund was established to receive these reimbursements. Once reimbursements are received into the FEMA fund, reimbursement can then be made to the fund that incurred the expenditures, which in this case is the street levy fund. So in order for the street levy fund to be reimbursed for the tornado-related expenses, the $818,518 needs to be certified as reimbursement revenue. Also in 2019, the general fund advanced to the street levy fund $250,000 to ensure it continued to meet the minimum fund balance requirement, along with helping to cover the cost of the tornado-related expenses. With receipt of the reimbursement from the city's FEMA fund, the street levy fund is now in a position to pay back the advance to the general fund. So we're asking that the city appropriate the funds from the street levy fund as a transfer out and certify the revenue, which is a repayment of funds back to the general fund in the amount of $250. And then finally, in Fund 750, the Parks Department has been accepting donations and rental revenue and depositing them into a designated fund for the long-term care of Wardinger Park. There are currently 2 cabins, Harshman House and Ankeny House, that need repairs, which include drywall, ceiling and porch repairs, in addition to replacing the doors leading to the cellar. Therefore, the city would like to utilize $4,550 of designated funds to complete these repairs. Since this amount was not originally budgeted in 2020, the 4550 needs to be appropriated to complete these necessary repairs before spring. Also, out of Fund 750, the senior center needs to replace their commercial grade dishwasher, which has been in use since the center opened in 2005. Multiple quotes have been received, and it's estimated that the cost of replacing the unit is approximately $5,000. The funds to cover replacement of the dishwasher will be coming from the Senior Center Growth Fund, of which the $5,000 will need to be appropriated. In addition, the Beavercreek Enrichment Association has agreed to cover $2,500, 50% of the cost of the new dishwasher. Once the check from BEA is received, that money will be deposited back into the Senior Center Growth Fund. So therefore, this donation portion of $2,500 also needs to be certified as additional revenue for Fund 750. So staff is recommending adoption of Ordinance 20-6, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
I'm so glad you're the one that had to present.
Did you get all that? It's time for the quiz.
But the one thing I do want to point out is the BEA funds, and that's private money that's been raised over the years, starting going back before we even had construction of the senior center. So that's always nice when we get people, private groups to put money up for certain projects. So, any questions?
I'd just like to congratulate you for the hard work you've done on the FEMA reimbursement, and congratulate the rest of the city for the first reimbursement check. That's great.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, just want to clarify, it seems like a bit of a shell game with the FEMA, which it is, because they require us, all the funds have to run through the FEMA fund that we had to specially create, and then we have to allocate it out and divvy it up from the fund. So a lot of shell, it looks like shell games. Well, it is. It's law making us create a FEMA fund, which then we deposit, then we disperse. So it's a lot more movement than just taking a check and depositing it where we know it goes right off the bat. Everything has to run through a funnel, so to speak, first. So very good job, though. We're happy. We have a lot more funds, hopefully, to come our way. A lot more expenses to continue to get reimbursed for. But we were one of the first in the area to get reimbursed, so we're very happy about that.
All right, well, thank you. Anybody else?
I just wanted to commend the staff for all their hard work putting this all together, because as city manager just said, we're one of the first to receive a check, and a lot of work had to go into that to make sure that happened, and we appreciate your efforts.
All right, I think that's it. Thank you very much. So I'm looking for a motion to approve ordinance 20-06.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 20-06. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Curran?
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia?
Yes.
Councilmember Rushing?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Councilmember Bales?
Yes.
Mayor Stone?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. All right, decision items. We have board appointments. Well, I'm just going to say that we made a little boo-boo last time, and so we're going to back up and do it the way that it needs to be done. So right now, we're looking for a motion to unappoint certain members from the CR.
Sir, we've got the Greene County Health first.
Oh, we got that one first?
That one's not a boo-boo.
All right. Well, we're going to back up again. All right. So we have two people that have been submitted by the Greene County Board of Health that they would like on their board. And so I'm looking for a motion or discussion on those appointments.
So moved.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Andrew Root and Mark Welsh to the Greene County Board of Health for the term ending February 29, 2024.
Second.
So, you got a comment? Please.
Second.
Oh, second? All right. So I have a motion and a second to appoint Andrew Root and Mark Walsh to the Greene County Board of Health for the term ending February 29th, 2024. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Now we're back to our cleanup section. So I need a motion to unappoint, please. Are you all clear on why we're having to go?
Yeah.
All right. So I need a motion to unappoint.
Mr. Chair, I move to unappoint Keith Ayers, John Compton, Shannon Graham, Lauren Ross, Brian Smith, and Zach Upton from the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Now we're going to go through this process again. So I need a motion to open nominations for the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council.
I move to open nominations for the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to open nominations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Zach Upton.
Do I have any other nominations? Do I have a motion to close nominations?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close nominations. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to appoint?
I move to appoint Zach Upton to the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council for the term ending February 28, 2023.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Upton to the CRA. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just for a little explanation, we got ahead of ourselves a little bit. There's certain different processes that for the appointment that are set by this, required by the state. And I will be making 2 appointments myself. The Planning Commission will be making 1. And then the board itself will make a couple. So we are corrected now. We stand corrected. So thank you very much. All right. It is council time. And how about we start with Councilmember Curran?
Yes, Your Honor. Had the privilege to read to a group of young people at Primrose. I think Your Honor experienced that process also.
I did.
My book that I read was 7 Rules to Be a Lion. It's quite awesome. Yeah. And also, I'd want to mention, of course, involvement at the Mayor's First Thursday, always a success each month, and an opportunity for businesses to be recognized who perhaps up to that point had not been. The Greene Park District had their pancake breakfast on Saturday, which was really nice, and we certainly hope in the years to come that that beautiful area will once again come alive, realizing the awful destruction that took place out there. So just a few items, Your Honor.
Well, you've been busy. Thank you. Councilmember Schwartz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week I had the opportunity, Vice Mayor Adams invited us out to go see the Lego Robotics League, which is the high schoolers. And let me tell you, I have judged the first robotics league, but this was a whole nother level. These were very, very large robots. It was very impressive. The showing was outstanding. So if you do get a chance or you hear about it, I highly recommend it. It's very, very cool. So thank you, Vice Mayor, for inviting me out. And then the rest of the week I was spent down in San Antonio, so I had to enjoy some warm weather for work.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Garcia.
Yes, thank you. So, like Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Curran, I also read at Primrose for Read Across America Week. I read The Little Blue Truck, which went beep beep, so that was fun. The kids enjoyed that. My son came with me, and it was a very rambunctious crowd of 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, to which my 1-year-old promptly at one point just went, too much action. But they were really exciting. They were all dressed in cat in a hat gear. I think you were there the same day, Councilmember Curran. So they all had cat in a hat gear, and they looked great. I want to thank the Girl Scouts and the Waves for coming in today. We always enjoy having them. And the Waves, one thing they didn't mention in the robotics competition is they are given a number of prompts and missions to complete with their robot, none of which they can all complete in the small time frame they have. So they have to very strategically decide which missions to accomplish that will give them the most amount of points in their small time frame. So these girls and these young kids who do this are truly amazing with the things that they accomplish in such a small time frame. So it was great to have them. On a more serious note, I did attend the MVRPC meetings, to which I will start serving on the executive board next month. But we talked about the long-term disaster recovery update, and I've spoken to the city manager, and we do have a representative from the city that goes to monthly meetings with the MVRPC talking about long-term disaster recovery. I think the tornadoes that just happened out of state are a good reminder of the damage that we incurred here in our city, and that we still have people trying to recover. So I would urge any resident who is still recovering to call the United Way number 211 to get into their case management system. So what's happening is here early in the spring, we're going to have volunteers come from a number of different areas from across the country to help rebuild our area. And the only way that you will be able to be on this list to have your home rebuilt or have your property rebuilt is if you're in the case management system. So again, the number for the United Way is 211. You do not have to be homeless. You do not have to be unemployed. You do not have to be starving to get the assistance. So I would urge everyone who could use any assistance at all, even if you are insured, to call this number. When looking at the numbers of individuals and residents from across the area, Beavercreek is very underrepresented for some of the other cities who are requesting assistance. So please do, if you need help or if you need assistance, get a hold of our city manager, has a lot of information, and I know our staff has been working so hard to try to get people assistance, but as well as the 211 number, that would be very helpful. So I hope everyone tries to take advantage of that if you need it. But that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Rushing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I'd like to add this evening is this coming Wednesday, Greene County Sheriff Gene Fisher is holding a town hall for discussing the upcoming sales tax initiative. So for those in the audience and those watching at home, we're just a week away from the election. On that ballot for all residents will be the option of additional sales tax to support a new jail facility. So again, that's this Wednesday, starting at 6:30 at the Fairborn Senior Center. Sheriff Fisher, as well as some others from the county, are going to have a panel and have an open forum to discuss that. So please attend if you need more information about the upcoming ballot issue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Vales.
Thank you. I just want to thank the Girl Scouts again for coming out tonight. Also the First Lego League ladies who advanced to the International Championship. That's awesome. I also want to thank Boy Scout who came to watch the meeting tonight and see democracy in action here, and everybody actually in the crowd to listen to the alternative funding presentation that will really shape the future of our community moving forward. So like Councilwoman Garcia said, please, if you have any questions, call, get the correct information, and we look forward to hearing from you.
And we have another Boy Scout in the back as well.
Thank
Snuck
you.
in a little late,
All right.
so we're happy to have you here.
That's all.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Adams.
I wanted to thank the Waves Group for showing up again to our meeting. I was really impressed with these young ladies, and I really look forward to seeing what they do as they go forward with their competitions. And attending the first robotic competition, again, this is my first time to do that with these big robots, and what these kids do with these things is amazing. I mean, they program to do a lot of things, and there were a few accidents, but I will say that I got into the pits, and in the back of their pits, they all had these really big toolboxes that I would probably die for. It was just amazing. But also attended the Green Bucks Visibility Day along with Mayor Stone. It was a great way to spend a Saturday morning. We watched some challenged kids get their trikes and some disabled veterans get their trikes, and to watch them be mobile again. They were riding all over the mall. It was fun to watch, and they had a big smile on their face because now they can get out and be with their friends and do the things that, I won't say normal, but everybody else does. I also had the opportunity to read at the Primrose, and I read a Dr. Seuss book. It's Green Eggs and Ham. I got about halfway through, and the kids were telling me, you know, because it was saying you didn't like it, and they said, well, you will at the end. You will at the end.
I spoiled it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, but they knew it. They knew the thing. So, as Councilman Rushing said, next Tuesday is voting day. Please go out and vote. It's important that we do exercise that right that we have and privilege that we have to vote, and we can kind of control and dictate how our future goes. And I think that's so important for everyone to do that. One other quick thing, and I know he doesn't like this, but I'm going to congratulate Chief Evers back there on being selected as the Employee of the Year for Beavercreek this past year, and it's a well-deserved award. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right. Well, I might as well chime in. I, too, went to Primrose and read to the kids. But I will say that the book, Dr. Seuss book I had, it was the most tongue-twisting book I have ever seen in my life. It really, I mean, I had to sometimes do a double take and see what I was reading. But we had fun. We had 3 different classes I read to, or 2 different books and 3 different classes. But it was, it's always fun to go there, and next time I'm going to pick something that won't tie my tongue quite so bad. And I think Pete will probably talk about this a little bit. We have the land use plan open house coming up soon, and so I'll leave that to Pete to discuss. The Chamber of Commerce has its awards on the 11th. And then Don Adams, the Vice Mayor, joined me at the Beavercreek Beaverview Bowl to welcome the Knights of Columbus. They have a tournament, statewide tournament, periodically, and once in a while it's here at Beaverview, and so we went and welcomed them to our lovely city. So we've had a busy week or two, and a couple of these other items mentioned, I mean, everybody's been busy, so thank you. And with that, I would like to turn this over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Want to be the first to announce that chipping and hauling of the tree and brush debris is officially complete. Total for all entities is a little under 43,000 cubic yards. So that's about a 1/4 to 1/3 compaction ratio. Remember, we kept talking about 150,000 cubic yards, but that was, you know, once you chip it up, came down to about 43,000 cubic yards, which ended up being 596 truckloads. Wow. 596 truckloads. So we will be submitting that for reimbursement. All the entities were. We split it up. I would like to thank the Beavercreek Township and Greene County for their partnership in this. We were together in this from the beginning, from the disaster day one through now. We had to work together. We bid that out as one project, and we took turns on. We always had to have a monitor there that counted, took a picture of every truck, entered the data into the computer at the same time. That's all per FEMA requirements if you want reimbursed. A lot of hoops to jump through to get the reimbursement, but I appreciate the partnership with the other government entities in that. The county as well, because both, we all realized that none of this debris ended up in Beavercreek City. It was all in, some in Fairborn at CMEX and some at Environmental Services in Xenia, both on county property. But we appreciate the county taking that on to give us a space to do that during that desperate time. So in the end, a lot of hauling away, but it's not in the neighborhoods anymore, so that's good. Moving on. Mayor mentioned the public open house hearing that we're having for the land use plan for the 2020 update. This is important to get residents' feedback. It's Thursday, March 12th, 5 to 7 p.m. right here in council chambers. Please bring your questions, comments. You can have planning at beavercreekohio.gov. As far as email goes, or you can call 427-5512. I guess you have to now dial 937-427-5512. That's going to be a hard habit to break. I'm not the only one. We also online, under the planning department, there is a draft planning and development 2020 update, so you can simply click on the draft to view the draft yourself before you come to make that. So that's Thursday, March 12th. Please come and ask questions and provide feedback. Road closures, everybody's favorite. Monday, March 16th, that's coming up. day before Election Day. So Monday, March 16th, Shakertown Road will be closed at US 35. New horizontal curve is being built to connect the new portion of Shakertown Road to the existing road. So the other end, they're actually going to have to cut into basically the road, and they're going to be changing the part of the curb and everything. So that's why Shakertown is going to be closed. They will eventually, there's a business or two back there and a one residence that will be able to utilize from US 35. You know, it's one of those road closed but to through traffic, and that's it. So just those few will be able to use that portion of the road. But it will be tore up by the time the road's dug up and changed on down the way, so you won't be able to get through. Work is expected to take about 45 days. Emergency access, of course, there will not be once the road is actually removed. Fire and police, of course, are notified, and they'll know if there's an emergency on the other side. They'll know how to get to the people. But once you tear up the road, there is no through access. It's nothing but dirt and mud and everything else once it's tore up until it can be put realigned. For questions on this project, the City Engineering Division is 937-427-5513 if there's any questions. This is a contractor, so this isn't the city workers. This has been bid out and contracted out. But we hope to, everything is I can always, any kind of projects, it's always one thing, weather dependent. And I mean, hopefully we pray for good weather that we can get this done in the 45 days and not have to be extended. I just want to mention Beavercreek, the 4th of July. This year, the theme is Happy 40th Birthday, Beavercreek. We're a way of celebrating the independence and our birthday, 40 years as a city. And the theme really is celebrate the event like it's 1980. So we might see some 80s theme parade floats or 80s theme dressing and everything else. So we'll see what happens. But we're seeking sponsorships for the 2020 celebration. There is on the website, there is a packet that shows levels of sponsorship and what you are promoted, what on the banners and on the advertisements. So, this has been fully funded the last 4 or 5 plus years, fully funded with sponsorship dollars. So we're very proud of that. To learn more about the 4th of July events, please visit the city's website, beavercreekohio.gov, and then basically it's under Parks, and then you'll see 4th of July. There's a specific tab. And other than that, that's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on in the agenda, this is the time where the citizens' comments. So if there's anybody here tonight that would like to address council on any issue at all, please come forward and let us know. We ask that you limit your comments to about 3 minutes, and that unless you get some time donated by up to 2 other people. So please come forward and give us a name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Samuel Schmitz, and I live on Summerfield Drive. And today I will be talking to you about, well, first off, I've been looking at buying a house in Beavercreek since I just recently graduated and I have a job, and I've been looking at Beavercreek. However, with the proposed income tax, I have started to look elsewhere because, first off, last week at the presentation that the Fair Committee gave, they did not cite any sources for any of their numbers. When they said over 75% of the jobs in Beavercreek are held by non-residents, I could not find this number anywhere. This is a number a lot of news organizations have run with, however, no one has cited a source. When I went to college and all my writing classes, they told us if you're writing an argumentative paper, you must cite your sources, otherwise they mean nothing. I can come up to this committee and tell you 99% of people in Beavercreek don't want an income tax. We should then take it as gospel and completely cancel it. But that's not how this works. I would have to come up here and present information to you. I would also like to say that it's not fair to propose an income tax that doesn't affect everyone. What they are proposing is that retired people don't get taxed. They only have to pay the 1% property tax. Military people only have to pay the 1% property tax. But all of us future workers and all of us who are currently working are going to be forced that burden on us by us having to pay that tax till the end of time. taxes never get replaced. Taxes only are created and they never go away, and they're only increased. If we look at the history of even a federal income tax, the first federal income tax was created by Lincoln in 1861 to pay for the Civil War. In 1872, after the war was over, it was repealed. But then later on in Congress, it got brought up. And then when it was created, it went to a 5% income tax. And then once it was proposed for a 5% income tax, they then broke it into a 5 and then 10% income tax. And then once Herbert Hoover and FDR became president, Roosevelt raised the top rate to 79% and then to 90%. And in 1941, Roosevelt proposed a 99.5% rate on all incomes over $100,000. And when he was asked by an advisor, he said, "Why not?" And this is my fear is what will happen to the city. Last week, one of the members who came up for the committee said that Beavercreek in her time has gone from 25% retired to 75% retired people. I don't know if that number is true. I couldn't find any sources for that number. I assume it's not, and if it's not a real number, then they should come back, apologize for giving out false numbers, and then provide real numbers. Because if that is true, then that means the burden is going to be on us 25% that are working. And this is not fair for us. The problem is that, like I said, once the government incorporates an income tax, it never goes away. It only grows larger and larger and larger. And another issue I have with the proposed income tax is that we'll be forcing people who don't live in Beavercreek to pay taxes in Beavercreek. And this goes against what our founding fathers fought for, taxation without representation. Our founding fathers fought against the British stamp tax, which forced the colonists to pay a tax on all printed materials and forced them to print all their materials over in England instead of the United States. Our founding fathers thought it was unfair because they had no representation in British Parliament, and the representation that they sent was not recognized by the British colonies, and thus this is why the Revolutionary War was started. If we incorporate an income tax, anyone who pays income tax in Beavercreek should be allowed to vote. If someone works in Bellbrook and come to Beavercreek, and Beavercreek has an income tax, and they're paying Beavercreek income tax, they should have the right to vote, because they have the right to their representation if they are being taxed. In the end, if we incorporate an income tax, it will punish those who work and succeed in their careers. The more I move up my chain at work, the more money I make at work, I'm going to have to pay more. I'm going to have to give more money to the city. And that's essentially saying that the city knows how to spend my money better than I do. It also removes incentives for people to donate their money to organizations, to charities, and to even the city, because they're being forced to pay more in taxes. It also rewards those who don't work and unfairly gives the retired and military more benefits than the working citizen. They get to pay less taxes, but they get the exact same representation I do. Their vote counts for the exact same as mine, but I'm paying more in taxes. This is not fair, and it goes against our founding fathers' ideals of taxation and representation. It will also push people out of Beavercreek and into Bellbrook. Bellbrook is also one of the few cities as well that does not have a city income tax. If Beavercreek gets one incorporated...
Please wrap it up real soon. You're past your 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. But like I said, if Beavercreek incorporates one, I'm going to go to Bellbrook, and I have friends who are in the same boat. The problem is that me and like almost every other person in this room, we want to pay as little taxes as possible. And if the government can,
we'll be happy to talk to you after the meeting if you'd like to talk to us individually. But your time is up unless you have somebody in the audience.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we, like I said, most of us stay around for a little bit after the meeting. If you want to talk to us, we'll be happy to. I know that Mr. Jarvis would probably be more than happy to discuss some of those issues with you as well, and part of his committee. But so now moving on. Anyone else like to address council on any? Please come up, give a name and address.
I needed to make a correction. I almost said it to the secretary this morning. I'm the one that gave the 25-75%, and that was an incorrect statement. I got that from the percentage of people in Beavercreek who had kids in school and who didn't have kids in school. That's what switched in that 40 years. When we moved here, there were 75% of the residents of Beavercreek had kids in school, and 25% did not. And now, according to the statistics that I'm aware of, it's switched, and now there's 75% of the people in residents in Beavercreek do no longer have kids in school, and only 25% do. So I just pulled that out of a whole different committee thing that I was involved in. Sorry about that.
That's fine. Thank you. Anyone else like to address council? Please come forward. Give a name and address, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Michael Hall, 2647 Big Woods Trail. 13 years ago, I moved to Beavercreek. I looked at several communities around the area, but what excited me about Beavercreek is that it was relatively inexpensive property taxes at the time, and also there was no city income tax. Now, I've seen my property taxes go up from about $2,400 a year when I moved in to now $3,900 a year. I also looked at the numbers that were presented in last month's meeting. I watched the video online, and my back of the napkin calculation said that even with the property tax rollback, my family was going to pay $60 more per month. However, even if I saved money with the new proposal, I would still rather pay more property taxes and not have an income tax. And the reason that I feel that way is because every time a property tax comes up for vote, it causes me to research, try to judge the merit of that spending, and discuss that with my family, and then we have a choice, we have a vote. And if we go to an income tax, my family loses a lot of that opportunity. Thank you, Your Honor and Council.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address council?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Chad Wielding.
Good evening.
2428 Brownbark Drive. So I have a suggestion for you the next time you read to an age group between 6 and 9 years old.
Okay.
It's a fine book called Who Pooped in the Park. Now, before the FCC comes and slams down on me, it's a very good tale on nature and observing your environment and picking up the tips that are left behind from our friendly neighbors. And it's all about safety. So,
And I would say these preschoolers would probably go home with a different story.
yes, they would. And I was not necessarily banned, but I was not asked to invite and reread that book. So, but all kidding aside, I appreciate the comments from fellow citizens. So we've been through this before, and I hope we've learned from each other and listened to each other in the past, and we don't go down the same road. We've only talked about the need. We haven't talked about how. So I won't impart my opinion on that part. But there's a part of this that just because the Ohio did it wrong decades ago doesn't mean we continue down this road. This is taxation without representation. Yes, call me your crazy uncle. But those are facts. The people that are taxed do not get to vote on how this money is spent. And I know for a fact, the last time we voted, it was at least 69% of the people understood that they prefer property taxation because they get to control how the money is spent. I'm not going to get into the how yet because we're not there. I understand that. So I appreciate Mrs. Garcia's comments about the nuanced part of this, because there is an impact to the earning population if done incorrectly that will give no credit to what I am trying to do to save for my future, a future that is in jeopardy because of the way the federal government has structured some of the finances. So I want to make sure when these numbers are put out, 70-40, it's somewhere in there, but the communities around us are going to be impacted. And it's like, I don't want to say I don't care, because we care because they're going to lose money And our community, our people work in those communities. And I don't want to see a spiraling increase of taxes in the entire region, which would then impact our community. We know our community's one of the richest in the area, and those employees will bear the brunt of that if the increase impacts the communities around us. So you have to be very careful in saying there will be no impact on your income, because there will. I don't know which community has the largest concentration of workers that will be affected by this, but we have people that work in those communities as well. So please consider that as we deliberate in the next few months, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Bob Baker, Zimmer Estates, and following up with what Chad was just speaking about, one of the main reasons this income tax has failed time and time again is accountability. No one has ever come out and said, this is what we need it for, and this is how we're going to spend it. We have asked for an allocation by departments. Show us what percentage of this income tax goes to fund the police, goes to fund fire, goes to fund the city. Give us a clear accountability that this money will be spent for the core purpose of the city. That's what we've asked for, and no one can do that for some reason. We're just asking, because on a levy, it is designated for what you voted for. This is a blank check with no direction of how and how much is going to be spent where. We need in the legislation how this money will be allocated, so the people know where it's going, that it's going to support the core functions of the city. The infrastructure, the police, the fire. We need to know how you're going to spend our money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address council tonight? Please.
Hi, my name's Judy Paddock, and I live on Crone Road.
Pull that mic over just a hair. There we go.
I'm Judy Paddock, and I live on Crone Road. Okay, so I agree with Bob Baker about, I've been talking to Brian for the last couple months about this income tax, and he said, and I talked to Rick Perales also, that we need to put it in the charter how the funds would be allocated if we do income tax. We can't just, like he said, put out a check and it just is spent any way that whoever sees fit. You see what I'm saying? So the charter would have to be done first, and that implemented before we could go into putting that on the ballot in November. So I don't know how you're going to do a charter and have the people vote on that in November before the income tax. Do you know what I'm saying? That's all. That's all. I was just saying that that should be done first and how it's allocated so we can vote on that and approve that and then go to a city income tax.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone at all? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.